All right, today I am joined with the beautiful, amazing Crystal Morgan, CEO of Crystal Morgan Coaching, and she's going to speak some life into us today. So
Hey, Liz.
welcome, Crystal. So glad you're
Thank
here.
you. I'm so happy to be here. So excited.
Well, tell us a little bit about you for the audience meeting you for the first time. Tell us about you. What do you do? And then we'll get into the interview.
Yeah. So, as Liz mentioned, my name is Crystal Morgan. I am a certified self confidence coach. So, I work with single women in helping self confidence be their new normal. A lot of women that I work with are coming to me in a place where they're not exactly excited about the work that they're doing, the relationships that they're in, just their overall life. And, it's a really interesting thing. I always tell people when you get around kids, when you get around toddlers, right, they never have a problem with confidence. They don't question what's going on. They don't have, when they say yes, they really want something. When they say no, they really don't want it. They don't have any issues asking for anything. And I really am passionate about helping women get to a place where they can really hold on to that because we had that when we were younger. And then we learned the opposite of that. And what a world it would be if all of us women just came together and were able to have confidence to be able to go after what we want without any thoughts about repercussions. So that's what I do, Liz.
How freeing, that is, just to be able to just not second guess yourself
Yeah.
and to not even be self-conscious of what others think. I know, do you ever help people that say, I want to do this, but deep down inside, maybe they're not vocalizing it, but maybe they're just afraid of what others are thinking as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the number one thing that I think people naturally think about when they do ask me and they say, well, I just want to stop caring what other people think. And what the very interesting thing about this, Liz, I'll tell you, is that most of us think it's that we're caring what other people think, but the actual truth of it is that we actually are just caring what we think
Mhm.
internally. Because at the end of the day, I know instinctually the thought is my mom, my brother, my friend, my whoever, they're going to have all of these different thoughts. You actually don't know what they're thinking. We like to think that we know what they're thinking. And what's actually happening underneath the surface is you have the thought internally yourself. I'm
Mhm.
afraid that if I do this thing, my friend's going to think that I'm an idiot. Right. But you're the one that's actually thinking that. You have no idea what she's thinking. Even if you have a track record in the past about, well, she tends to say these things, you still don't really know. And I always tell people really actually are not thinking about you as much as you think. And I know this because I always ask someone, how much have you been thinking about this other person today? Most likely you've been thinking about yourself and how the world around you is going to affect you, how you're going to show up in situations. So, yeah, I have a lot of people who ask me about this, and I always tell them when it comes to caring what other people think, just set it aside for just a second and really just start focusing and prioritizing what you think.
Mhm.
Because that's actually what's going to build your confidence. Because every time that you try to guess, because it's just a guess, what other people are thinking about you, you actually silence your own voice. You tell yourself that what I think about is really not that important. So then you want to put the responsibility on other people. But really, it's all your job. It's all you. So that's where it really starts. It's like the first foundation of where everything is when it comes to your self-confidence is your own conversations with yourself.
Self-talk, self-talk,
Self-talk.
right? It's what we say to ourselves when we talk to ourselves. And are we being loving?
Mm-hmm.
If you were your own best friend, how good of a friend are you to yourself?
Exactly. And it's one of those things that I know sounds really gimmicky in the sense that you hear it so much in like self-help books and you hear it all the time. But I find so many people, I mean, a lot of people I work with, they listen to the podcasts, they're reading the self-help books. They're doing all of the things. But I find that it's very rare that people actually really do have a good self talk relationship with themselves. And a lot of that is because I've found that what most people want to do is so let's take affirmations, for example. what most people want to do is we'll take affirmations as basically just yelling things at yourself and hoping that it overrides all the other stuff that's popping up in your head. And I totally get it because I used to really try and do that as well, but it didn't work for me that well. And the reason is because most people can't bulldoze their way to, let's just say you just think that you're ugly or something like that. You try to bulldoze your way in affirmations. I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful. Your brain's actually kind of smart. So it will kind of have a moment of like, yeah, but like, hey, I actually believe that I'm ugly. So that's why a lot of people really get stuck. And what real self-talk actually looks like is diving deeper and having a much more deeper conversation about if you are really believing something like, I'm ugly, why do you think that? What would it mean for you if you were beautiful? Where is it coming from that you think that you're ugly? And what is specifically ugly, quote unquote, about you? That's the secret to self-talk, not like just, I'm going to say some really great things about myself and hope that it sticks. It's really diving in and pulling out the roots and doing the work of finding out what's really happening in there. Then when you tell yourself you're beautiful, nothing gets in your way because now you understand yourself a little bit better.
Sometimes it helps to talk about it, right? Sometimes, like when I'm processing my thoughts, I'm talking out loud. But here in this case, we're talking to ourselves. That's so powerful. Now,
Yeah.
what tools would you give somebody who says, "Okay, I know what I want." Maybe they've gone through some kind of a goal setting process and they've defined exactly what they want clearly in their heart. What tool would you give them to start to go for that?
Yeah. Well, in that particular case, I always like to talk to people about it's usually the stuff that gets in your way that's really going to prevent. You've got a plan, you've got a goal. I want to, whatever your resolution is, maybe it's something in your business, maybe it's something with your family. And usually what gets in the way is the self-criticism that you kind of have already been practicing and you may not even be aware of it. So I always like to tell people do what I just call a thought download. You can call it journaling, you can call it whatever. The minute that you have decided on your goal, take a few minutes and actually write down everything that you think about achieving that. Do you think it's possible? Do you think it's impossible? Do you think that there's a reason that you can or can't do it? Write it all down because I promise if you've made a goal that is new for you and you want to stay in action to do it, there's something that's coming up that is probably like in your way that you are thinking about. And what I think people's natural inclination, Liz, is to kind of ignore it, like, and just be like, well, I'll just worry about that when I get there, or I'm just gonna, like, we'll figure it out. And I always tell people, no, take a moment and write all that stuff down. See what you think is in your way. And then once you see it, maybe you think like, I've never made that kind of money before, or we've never had that relationship before. Really start asking yourself the questions of, okay, what can I do? How do I want to show up in order to really move past that obstacle? What that allows you to do is to start making decisions ahead of time. Make the tough decisions now. If you know that you have a weight loss goal, make a plan when you're in the store. When you see the brownies, what do you plan on doing when you see the brownies? Are you going to put them in the cart? Are you going to walk past them? I'm not even going to go down that aisle, right? You need to already have in your mind when you know that that's coming up, what you're going to do. So make a plan ahead of time for all the things that you think are going to prevent you from staying in action. That's the biggest thing. And then the number two biggest thing I would say is really pay attention to, I was talking about as you're doing that thought download, all those thoughts that are coming up, there's something in there that is really going to be self-criticism. There's going to be something that you're going to be saying about yourself. And I always like to tell people the quickest 3 steps that I can give you if you are really concerned that your own self is going to attack itself, you're finally about to do that presentation or go to your boss and ask for that promotion, you're going to have a flood of thoughts of, I don't deserve this promotion. I don't really know what I'm doing. I did it, all of that stuff. What I like to recommend is 3 things to just do really quickly for yourself. Number one, you just need to be aware of the fact that you're thinking about it. I know that sounds like an obvious step, but believe me, there's a lot of people who you step in front of your boss's office, you're finally going to ask for the promotion, and all you feel is dread. And you have no clue what the dread is. You're just like, I always have to stop and just take a moment. What are you thinking about? Take a second and find it. Once you find it, it could be something very simple like, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to give it to me. I don't know if my boss is going to give me this promotion. Once you're aware of that, I always like to tell people, find a phrase that makes you feel very powerful. It could be something simple like stop, or, depending on how colorful you are, it could be anything, but you just find a phrase that stops you in your tracks, and you just say, stop. You tell your brain, stop whatever it is that you're doing right now, because we're not going to do it. And then the third step is you just want to tell your brain, you want to tell yourself what you really want to be thinking about in that moment. This is something that can happen very quickly for you. And I promise it changes everything, because most people don't take the time to do it. You take a moment, you think about, what is it that I'm thinking about? Because I don't feel great right now. What am I thinking about? You tell yourself, okay, all these thoughts, I'm going to stop them. And then I'm going to tell myself, what do I want to be thinking about? Before you walk into that office to ask for that promotion, what do you want to be thinking about? Before you go into work with your trainer, before you go and meet with that client, whatever it is, what do you want to be thinking about? You want to be thinking about, I'm an amazing person. I'm an amazing businesswoman. I'm an amazing human being that is going to be looking absolutely sexy this year because of what I'm doing. Whatever it is, start with that self-talk. And you can always, and I tell people, like, if you can't find it in that moment, don't panic. You can always retroactively find it later and then practice it then, and then try again. Get good at catching at what's going on. Those basic 2 big things that I just mentioned, Liz, are the 2 things that will be the difference between having your goal and staying in action, and ending up halfway through your goal and then really just quitting because you want that emotional release of just like being able to let everything go, because that feels easier, right? It feels easier when you can just sit and just like, I don't have to do anything else. Well, get ahead of that. No, make those decisions ahead of time. Know what obstacles are going to get in your way. Get it out. Start working on that self-criticism, and you will be able to go all the way and take 2022 anywhere you want.
I love it. I love it so much, because how many times are we just like driving in our car, and then all of a sudden this thought, and I don't even know where the thought comes from, and all of a sudden my brain goes from thinking about happy thoughts to all of a sudden going down this path of these fears of, oh, well, what if this happens? And then, oh no, and then that. And then all of a sudden I've gotten to the point where someone's gotten into an accident or something, like in my brain, like something just off.
Yes.
Whoa, how did my brain get here? What in the world? And where did that thought come from? And to just say, stop it.
Stop it.
Stop. Okay, let's refocus. What is it that I want? And let's fill our mind with that thought, because you can't have fear and faith at the same time. Fear and faith can't coexist at the same time. And so you can either choose to look this way, or you can choose to look this way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's a much more empowering way to live, because and the actual, I know, practicality of this, I always like to remind people, it takes practice. And there's going to be certain areas where you're stronger at it than others. And yeah, our brains move ridiculously fast. We have thousands of thoughts throughout the day, but we can always be encouraged to know that you literally don't have to listen to the ones that you don't like. You can watch it kind of go by. It's kind of like seeing that bus that, you're waiting for the bus, and you see that bus that actually isn't going to the destination that you want. So you just decide, oh, look, hey, look, there's a bus. I guess I'll let that pass right on by. It's like, just let it pass. It's actually not a problem to just, like you were saying, you're in the car, you have all this stuff come up. You can just go, wow, look at that. There's a lot of stuff going on. And then you just get to say, all right, well, I'm going to stop and I'm actually going to choose this because this is actually going to give me life. This is
Mm,
actually going to take me exactly where I want to go.
I love it, Crystal.
Yeah.
So for any of our listeners that wants to get in touch with you, how can someone get in touch with you?
Yeah, so many different ways. You can go to crystalmorgancoaching.com. That's Crystal spelled Crystal. I am also on Instagram and Facebook. Handles are Crystal Morgan Coaching. So I always tell people if you can remember that, then you can find me really easily. I also have a podcast that you can tune into. Confidence looks good on you, girl. So feel free to dive into any of that material. And of course, you can go to my website for different freebies, resources, and also just to schedule a free consultation and talk to me about what's going on in your life so I can see how I can best help.
That's so awesome. So we'll be putting that in the comments. So all you have to do is go down there and you can just find Crystal that way. So any closing comments, Crystal, that you want to leave our audience with today? If there is a woman or man listening in today that's needing the encouragement, what would you say to them?
Yeah, my encouragement is I would just say take some time. And I'm saying this kind of as we kind of come out of this COVID phase a little bit and things are, I don't want to say completely back to normal because what's normal now is something different. But I would really encourage you to get to know yourself again. I think that the last couple of years have really put us all in a state where we've had to, for a lot of people, readjust, like maybe even some of you guys feel like you've had to burrow into a little hole and you've mostly been in survival mode for a really long time. And I just want to encourage you to tell yourself that you're safe enough and that you have permission to start re just introducing yourself to the world that you really want to create. You have permission for it. Some of you have been waiting for permission. If you can give it to yourself, I'm giving it to you right now. You have permission to just lay the last 2 years down and to thrive in 2022.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much, Crystal. I truly
Yeah.
appreciate you being here with us today
Thank
and
you for having
speaking
me.
life and pouring into others. So thank you.
Love it. You're welcome.